I just finished a table like this. I'm pretty excited about how it turned out. And right after this, I'm going to show you how I did it. All right, well, welcome tonight to the shop here in Canterbury, New Hampshire. I'm Tom McLaughlin, and there's the marvelous camera lady behind the lens, as usual. I am excited to share with you or explain to you how I finished a table just like this one. This is made of mahogany. It's got solid mahogany legs, but the rest of it is veneered. The apron, the drawer front, and the aprons on the side with these nice ebony accents. And the drawer is made from white pine with ebony accents around it as well. And this nice sunburst front. This drawer has not been final fitted because this was part of one of our course tables. So this table that you're about to see, you can make it along with us in this course. All right, well, check it out. Here's the finished table. Well, almost finished. I left it unassembled so I could show you the different parts.
So pretty.
Isn't it nice? Check out the top.
Wow. Oh, that darn light up top.
Wait.
There.
Right there?
Yep.
Just tell me when. Are you seeing the chatoyance?
Yes, we are. It's dynamite.
Look at that.
It's like the Grand Canyon.
Isn't that intense?
Gorgeous.
That is quilted sapele in the center field here, bordered by ebony, and then this kind of radiant use of the quarter-sawn Cuban mahogany veneer. And then another edge of ebony, and you can see on the front edge, we've got some vertical grain of ebony as well. I just showed this top to our friends in the Northeastern Woodworkers Association at the great show in Saratoga Springs. Sorry you missed it. You're gonna have to put it on your calendar for next year. But great experience and seeing a lot of people out there. And I did a little spiel on combining veneers with solid woods. And this is a great table to feature that because of the solid wood legs. And then you have the veneered apron. But I'm gonna take this top off for a second so you can see the interior of this. Now, it's very traditional in the use of the white pine for the core material. So this bow front side, or this bowed side, is made of solid pine. It was just sawn to the curve and then veneered. And then you can see, let's put this down here. You can see the ebony line on the bottom edge there. And then the interior is pretty interesting because you got this nice dovetailed divider here, and then you can see how it's fitted out on the inside to accept the drawer. So, what did I do so far? Well, I'm going to talk to you about the finish. So you can see it actually blends quite nicely. It's got a nice warm color. This is the mahogany color. And believe it or not, I did not add any stain to this.
Wow.
This is the real deal color of mahogany. It's been hanging around a little while. It's oxidized and it's naturally darkened. So this table, before I put the finish on, looked just like this one. Now you might say, there's no way that's gonna match because that drawer front looks so much darker than the legs. But actually, it did. I just lightly sanded the front. And what you'll find in finishing and woodworking in general is horizontal pieces will read a little lighter than vertical pieces because of the way they reflect light. So if your vertical pieces are a little bit lighter than the horizontal, you're probably going to be pretty close once they're finished. I did wipe this down with water before, I raised the grain of the other one. And I noticed during that process that the legs got quite a bit darker And it almost made me wonder, had I pre-stained those? Had I put some potassium dichromate on it? I know I hadn't. So they got to the right color, and I was very pleased with how harmonious everything got here with the legs. Now, the apron material, look at that, beautiful swag like of shape, but it's a straight line across the base. And then we have this pull I added. So this is the pull some of you may have wondered about, but I like using this ring pull on this type of pattern because it's somewhat see-through. And this was something that Jacques Rouman used on his pieces. He used to use these hoop, they were sometimes this white, like bone, what is it, ivory. He'd make out of these white ivory rings, and they would be larger than that even. But you would see all the beautiful figure on the front of the piece. Now this drawer has been finished too, and I'll explain that in a second. But let's talk about the sequence of finishing a table like this. I was getting this ready for a gallery show. So I want it to look good. I want it to be, you know, like museum quality, right? And this finish that I use on here is almost embarrassingly easy and good looking. And I have shared it with some of you. You probably already know. And that's just shellac. And that's spraying shellac on the base. Now the top I did something a little more. But this base, once I raised the grain a little bit, I just sprayed it with a coat of shellac. And I knew I wasn't going to top coat it with anything, so I used waxed shellac. I didn't care. So, and let me show you the products. Let's talk about the shellacs a little bit over here. So this is what I actually used, and this has become my new system. I'm not sure it's very good.
You must have yogurt buckets like this.
No, but look at the can of what's is actually the lid of, here's the finish in there, okay? So I got it mixed up. This is a like 1.5 pounds to a 2 pound cut of this bullseye shellac. This is a fresh can. I wanted some that was good. This is not wax free, but it dries beautifully and it rubs out museum quality. So that's why I'm using it. And you can get this at the box stores. This is the clear. They also have an amber, which used to be called orange shellac. In these cans, this clear comes as a 3 pound cut. So when you take it out, that simply means that 3 pounds of shellac flakes is dissolved in 1 pound of 1 gallon of denatured alcohol. 3 pounds of flakes, 1 gallon, 3 pound cut. So 1.5 pounds is just diluting this roughly in half with alcohol. And that's all I do. It's just kind of eyeball it, splash it in. So you want to thin it a little bit to spray. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate spraying, but we link you to a video all about spraying, and I actually show you how I use this gun, a gravity feed gun. And this is a great way with the 1.5 pounds to a 2 pound cut of spraying this base. And I've got 3 coats on there. That's it. 3 coats. And then I'll show you how I do the final rub out on a back leg that I haven't done yet, and the kind of wax that I use to get it show ready. Okay. So this is a great way to apply shellac.
Did you sand between coats, Tom? Tim's asking.
Yes, you do want to lightly sand. I just like to lightly sand. Sometimes I'll just spray on the first 2 coats without it, but you're going to feel like a little granular. After that first coat, you do sometimes feel the grain slightly raised too. So I like to sand it with 320. That's kind of been beaten down a little bit. So it's pretty soft, and you can just lightly hit it like that. Okay, knocks the nibs down, dust it off a little bit, and then I spray it again, and we're good to go.
And the advantages of spraying versus rubbing the shellac on, Michael's asking?
Ease of laying it on there. You can rub it on, you can brush it on, but it dries very fast. Okay, so when you're wiping it on, it's almost like you're French polishing. You're going to get way more streakiness than you get when you spray. You get a hang of it, and you'll see in that video if you check that out. Just spraying is so nice, and it doesn't have to be an expensive gun. Because shellac is pretty easy to spray. I wanted just to show you, I sprayed the base, but I also spray the interior here. I gave that 2 light coats, and then lightly sanded it out. And what you have is just the silkiest, smoothest interior. And all I'm gonna do is put a little wax in there at the very end. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how I rub that out, and then we'll talk about the top a little bit, which is still actually curing. So let's turn this upside down. And on the back here, this is where I'm not sure if the light will pick it up, but do you see, and can you see the sheen on this leg? Tell me where.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty shiny, right? Glossy, glary. That's right off the gun. That's how it lays out. No drips or sags or anything. Just nice. And then this leg, see how it's kind of dull?
Yeah.
Smooth and softer looking? Yeah. That's after rubbing out with steel wool. So I very lightly hit it with the 320. Then you're going to use steel wool, the 4/0 steel wool. You can buy it like this, just in the bag from the box stores, or online. You might get a better deal even. But you can also find it in these rolls. This was some cheaper imported. Pretty nice though, the way it's combed, and you can unroll it. And if you're going to do a lot, of flat surfaces, you can actually wrap it just like that around the block, and it makes it easier to deal with. But for a leg like this, I usually just hold it in my hand because this leg is a little bit pillowed. Now watch what happens. I'm going to just bear down here. Can you see tell me when you can see the sheen. How about
it's a
right
little
here?
tricky to
How about,
see.
all right, you stay still. Let me move it until you see the sheen.
I
Right
can
here?
see it right here.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay, so let's just do a little rubbing right above. Now see how it's getting dull? All right, I'm going to stop right there.
Okay.
So you can see it's still shiny there, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's like a magic trick. You got all the cards, right? Take a look at your card. Don't forget it. All right, so...
It should be easy, shouldn't it?
yes,
Make
yes, I
everything
see
a little
it.
bit complicated.
All right, so wait. Now I'm going to... This is the wax that I like to use on the shellac and on the base. The showstopper, right? Re-wax. It's got an antique mahogany color, and it gives a nice sheen. But you use this after you've really... You want to dull the whole finish. But I'm telling you, it's just silky smooth. It's almost like a French polish after you put this wax on. But it's a little softer sheen. It's not quite as bright as a French polish, which I do like. So then I put a little of this on here. What I'm going to do is stop right at the line, right? I just want you to see the finished, the rubbed out and waxed versus the unrubbed out. I don't know if it's going to come up on the camera that well, but I'll just go right on up. This stuff's nasty smelling, so I won't do too much. Okay, I'll just let that dry for a minute. Not too long. It does dry fast. I like this Brie wax because it doesn't streak as much as some others. Works very nicely. All right, so while that's drying, I'm going to get the other paste wax I have. This is clear, and this is what I would wax more for the slipperiness, the inside of the table. So let's just rub this out before. I can feel it's almost dry. Okay, so this is right where I stopped. Okay. All
Wow,
right, so
yeah,
this
we
is
can
the
see the
difference,
difference, yeah.
okay? This is kind of sharp, glassy, and it's a little bumpy looking. This has the most gorgeous, soft, warm glow. See it? It's shining, but it's like a satiny gloss. You know, I don't know how to explain it.
It's subtle.
When you see it, you go, oh, that should be in a museum. If you could feel it, it's just very different. This is a little bit grainy, but that's the beauty of shellac. It just is so friendly to rubbing out like that, adding the wax, and you get this gorgeous final look. Now, I've just got to put a little more wax on this later, but I won't bore you with that. I just wanted you to see that's what I did to all of these surfaces. This was waxed over here, this apron piece, and I don't know if you can pick up the difference in how bright it looks. Like this is dull from being rubbed out, but not waxed, and this is waxed. You just have a richer color. Do you see it?
Yep, yep.
It just makes the color come back when you wax it after the dull rub burnishing of the steel wool. All right, so let's move on. The drawer, I did the same thing on the front prior to attaching that. The drawer sides and interior I rubbed with light sandpaper. In fact, let me put this over here. Let's set this over here for a second. And I wanted to show you on the drawer bottom. So here's the drawer bottom, and this is an actual solid drawer bottom. It's white pine, nice little raised panel. You can see the bow in the front. And it's got a little graininess from the spray, so it's got 2 coats. And this is all I do. I just take a beat down 320, just hit it till it feels silky. Same thing on the bottom here. I put 2 thin coats on this. You can almost get away with 1 to leave it a little drier but sealed. But this is the beauty of shellac. Like on the interior like this, you never want to use an oil finish or anything on the inside of a case. It will just smell like oil varnish forever. So you want to shellac is perfect. It dries like a shell, and it gives you that slick, clean feeling you want too. So you can also hit this with a little steel wool, and it will dull it, and it will feel like the most refined, gorgeous finish. You won't have any like shininess, but it will have like this beautiful seal finish. And it's so easy. I mean, try to think if you tried to do this with oil, you'd be messing around with it. And there we go. So that's all nice. Now I could wipe this with a little wax, but that's nice enough. And I already did the same thing on the drawer sides. And then I would just take the drawer bottom, and the last thing when it goes in, I'm going to fit it. It's already been fit, but I'll slide it up. I'll put a little touch of glue in that groove there, and then we will put a little screw in the back here. Let's see. I won't bother with that right now. A little shouldered screw goes on there. Now, the last thing before we put the drawer in, I want to show you the top. So let's just set that there. So now the top is always a little more of an adventure, because this had a lot more going on veneer wise. And I'm telling you, there is always something that happens that a little imperfection or an issue you got to deal with. But here's the thing. This has a lot of grain on here too, and I wanted to finish it a little differently. So I sealed it with shellac. Now this time I did not use the wax shellac. I'm going to set this aside now. I used wax-free. In fact, I made my own out of this de-wax super light shellac. This I got from Wood Finishing Enterprise. We also put the link actually to their shellac page, and you'll see this one if you want de-wax super light shellac. They have others there too that are really good. You could choose some are more amber, orangey. You can get those as well. But this is what it looks like when it's mixed up. Okay, there's the, sorry. So I got that's the grain. This is what it looks like when it's in the flake form. So after it's dissolved, you get like this light orangey amber, but it's not as orange as it looks in there. It's pretty clear.
So cool.
So the beauty of this though is that it's wax free. So it goes down as a sealer, and I sprayed a couple coats there. And one of the things that happened to me on this table, I can't go into this deeply, but it is interesting, was when I finished sanding and then I wet it down, this one spot, it's not like I sanded through the veneer, but there must have been like some kind of weird texture to the veneer that I ended up like having like a glue spot on the top, and it was so obvious.
Oh, gosh.
And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I'm not going to inlay a piece on there. That would show too much. But here's the great thing. When you have really busy, like gorgeous quilted material or burls, they're very forgiving in hiding defects. I don't even want to call it a defect because someone might buy this at the show. No, to blend it expertly, like an artist, right? Everything's not perfect. So at first I saw it and I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I have the right color to blend that. But once I had the shellac on, what I did was I just took a little Q-tip and I dipped it in my solvent or my lacquer, and my shellac. And look at, I can't even find this thing, and I will tell you, it made me sweat. Where the heck is it? Oh, there it is, okay. It's, when I show you this, it's almost like, you know, the Where's Waldo? But right in this field here, there was a very obvious glue spot.
Try not to move too much.
Okay, like here, here, here. And it was very much lighter than all of this. But I took the Q-tip and I got it just damp, and I just hit it on those spots, okay? And I let it dry. I didn't put much on, just enough to give you a very light tackiness. Then I came in with the Blend All powders. All right, so this is a technique that they use a lot in repairing furniture. If you've got a little issue and you need to blend it. So these are pigments, and I put a link to Mohawk's. These, I think they originally came from Mohawk or another dealer, but these are very fine pigments. They're like ash powder fine. So what you do, if you imagine this, I should probably get a piece of wood. I was about to say, pretend there's a piece of wood. All right, so here's a piece of wood. If this was brown or this color, I would just put it on there, and then you can kind of rub the spot and see how you can blend it out and feather it out. See how it's hard to see where it starts and ends. But when you do this on the similar color material and it blends, it's very hard to see. And then you top coat it with, in my case, more shellac, and then it just melts away. And if it doesn't go, I just keep doing it like after each successive coat of finish until I have it really hidden. Now, none of these worked. These were kind of umbery. They were too brown, dark for this. But I remembered I had some other, I can't remember what this color was, but look at, I had it in a, I used it to imitate like aged walnut once from a friend of mine named Mark Adams, who, not the Mark Adams school guy, but this guy was a finishing wizard. Anyway, let me show you this color. So I just put a little pigment right on there. Now I didn't put that much on this spot, but then I just rubbed it out. And look at that color. Do you see?
Nice, yeah.
See what I'm talking about?
I see.
So I did that on that spot, and now I can't even find it. And it had me sweating for a little bit, you know. But that's the beauty of these blend all powders. So if you're ever in a jam, I find this is more controllable and easier than trying to paint it in. You know, I do sometimes use a brush like this though to just get it where I want it, and then I can blend it out. You know, and you can create real subtleties, and you can adjust the powder between layers to get it straight. Okay, this thought you like see that because that saved me. These are expensive in these little jars, but I got this big bag for not that much money, and this is a beautiful Vandyke brown.
Looks like it's been around a while.
500 grams, man. And it's like, yeah, I've had it for a while. I have some Cyprian burnt umber as well, but this is a lot cheaper, and I got it from Kramer Pigments. So I didn't give you that link.
Oh, we'll add that at the end.
Kremer Pigments. I'm not even sure if they still sell, but they're a huge company in New York that sells a lot to artists and, you know, for mixing your own paints and all that, and possibly paint companies. All right, so once I got this color and everything doctored and correct, and then I sealed it in with my top coat of wax-free shellac. So now I've got like 3 thin coats of wax-free shellac on there. Then I sanded it and I applied the aqua coat. We went over this. We linked you to that video.
Yes, we did.
Using aqua coat. There's another method using the natural pumice and shellac that I also linked that video. That's the old traditional method, but I did use the aqua coat like 3 times on here. And then I lightly sanded it out and sealed it in. I should have said I only put 2 coats of shellac first, then the aqua coat, 3 coats, and then I sealed it in with 1 coat of shellac, wax-free again. Okay. Because this is water-based, you need to use the wax-free. Once you've sealed it in with the wax-free, now I can come and top coat, and I wanted a nicer finish, a little more protective finish. A lot of times I would go to an oil varnish or something like that where you could brush it on, like a tung oil varnish or something like that, but I didn't really have time. And it's just a little less protective than, well, obviously than urethane, but I decided I would spray lacquer. I know from my experience, like, I could spray it from the gun, but a little project like this, you know, sometimes it's just easier to use a spray can lacquer. And I have found, I've used the Minwax and the Watco, and I like the Watco more. And this is a semi-gloss Watco I got from Home Disappointment. That's what, Home Depot.
Cheapo.
But this was easy to use, and I'm using the semi-gloss. And right now, I've got 2 coats on. So I still got to deal with that thing. I'm going to try to fix it, level it out. I'll sand it down with 320, and then I'll spray 1 final coat. And then tomorrow, or I might, yeah, I'll get it to the exhibit soon enough, but it's not going to be set up till next week. But I will level this with, and we put that video there too, how to rub out a finish. I would level it with 1200 grit. I'm going to test if 800 will do it, but let me just show you what the leveling process is. I know since I'm going to sand this one more time, I'm going to try just the 800. So this has only been, this was sprayed about 3 hours ago. So check this out. If I lightly sand it, I'm going to try to level it. All right, it's not powdering up quite enough yet. I would give it a little longer. So I usually use this brush to keep the sandpaper clean. And once I've got it level where I see no more bumps from the spray, then I can come in and use this steel wool technique again. And see, after you spray this on, you have the little pearliness. Oh, you can see a little bumpiness. It flows out, but it's not flat, you know. But once you've leveled it, then you can come in with a steel wool. And I didn't quite level this area, but that's okay. And you'll get a really nice sheen. And that, I cover that more in depth and more thoroughly, you know, in that rubbing out video. I didn't actually level it because it hasn't really dried quite long enough. But then after I hit it with the steel wool, then you can come with like a paper towel or these shop towels. Paper towel, they have a little abrasive quality. Some people have commented paper bags. I just prefer this. It's similar to a paper bag, but it's softer. And it'll burnish it up to a nice soft sheen. And then I'll just spray a liquid polish on here, less likely to streak. And it'll have a nice soft glow like the base. So when it's done, I would attach the top. I have these holes already there to attach, and I made a mark. So this is the way it's going to go. I'll attach it. I've just got little screws under there. All right, so then the drawer is in. Beautiful.
So nice.
Oh, it's silky. But that, I didn't tell you, I would wax the inside of here with just regular paste wax. And it slides amazingly smooth right now because of the shellac has been rubbed out. But after that wax, it's just perfect. And there's little leather stops in there, so it's a little less of a crack. Next time I might use a little heavier, thicker piece of leather. But there, let's set it down. I'm really pleased with how it came out. Has a nice harmonious look to it. So many options for how you veneer and treat the top. And this project, there is a version of it that I added to the drawing, a little sub-square version where I put the masterclass version of this table. The masterclass has a little more because what we do to the drawer front. We use two different types of fronts, and we actually carve a fan in the front. Drawer front is veneered, and it's just really nice. On the top, I'm going to use more of a burl type wood that may go right out to the edge. So there'll just be this pool of veneer on the top with that interesting fan on the front, and the sides, instead of being straight across, they swag. The side even curves down to conform with that curve in the veneer you see there. So there we go. All right, I can take some of those questions if you're ready.
Yes. Okay. Let me get ready. David's asking, did the mahogany oxidize before or after putting on the shellac?
What are we talking about? Oh, I should say the base before. I didn't have any shellac on it for a while. Just like that table's been sitting, it looked just like that other table I showed you that was bare. And when I put on the shellac, it browned out and the legs looked significantly darker compared, you know, and they looked like they matched the apron. I did mean to tell you that when I did the top, this was all freshly put on. I just put in this line in the edge since getting back from the show last weekend, and I sanded it all down, and so it was lighter. It hadn't oxidized, and I tinted it slightly by using the potassium dichromate method.
So Lupe's curious, after a piece of furniture is finished in this manner, what instructions do you give a client on how to maintain it?
Oh, that's a good question. Always. I tell them they don't have to do a whole lot. If the top is a varnish or a lacquer like this, just the, occasional polish on there. And when I tell them, you don't have to go put all paste wax on the base or anything. Just keep it dusted. It will stay with this nice glow for quite a while. And then I don't think it's a problem if they used regular spray wax, like that Goddard's wax. It has beeswax in it. So I recommend that type of wax. A lot of times I would give my clients a can of the wax when I delivered the piece. It was a nice touch. And I know that would be a lifetime supply of that wax. You don't even have to hardly ever do it. You just keep it clean, but every once in a while, a nice wipe down with the wax, and there's like a little bit of a solvent in the wax that it smells fresh, and when it flashes off, it's like a lemon oil beeswax. You're left with the soft little beeswax, and it looks great.
Yeah, John says, tell them to learn to use coasters.
Yeah, coasters too. Yeah.
Okay, David's asking, where did you buy the ebony lines?
David, good question. I actually bought solid pieces. Here's a little bundle of lines I've made. And we actually did a video, so I would cut it up.
I can put that
into strips, and then I run it through my sander. These lines are 3/32. That's what those lines are in there. And then I have a video of cutting this on my bandsaw, creating like a zero clearance saw curve, and making your own. So I end up with a whole bundle right here. I've got these 3/32 lines that, here they are, they were squared up. Just cut from this, a bunch of strips. So one edge has the bandsaw mark, and I always just put that up, and I inlaid it just a little proud, and I went around with a little block plane and card scrape at the end, sand, and you're good to go. So it's very expensive to buy this Gaboon ebony. It's insane now. So I'm actually looking at substitutes. There's at Goose Bay, they have, I think it's not boxwood, but something like that. I did get a chunk last time. It looked just like Gaboon, but I haven't tried it. It's like a billet. You can buy these turning billets there, and you can make a lot of line stock out of it. That's what I did with these.
Do you apply the Blendle color while the shellac you applied with the Q-tip is tacky?
Not super tacky. You can. It's just, you don't want it really wet. I just want it to stick. You know what I mean? So it's on there, it's dry, but there's still, you know what I mean? Like when it really dries, it gets really slippery. But even the slippery, you can kind of rub it in and then blend it out. I always use just my finger like I showed you on the wood. And then, don't touch it. And then you're just going to spray over the top of it, and it's going to be gone. Thanks so much for joining us for this. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and the marvelous camera lady. On behalf of her and myself, we look forward to seeing you next time, right back here on Shop Night Live. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.